My name is Kendall, and I just turned 22 when my college graduation party turned into a nightmare. The champagne-sparkled guests mingled, and my parents smiled with pride that never quite reached their eyes. Despite their wealth, I worked through college something they resented. That night, amid the perfect decorations and catered food, I caught my father slipping white powder into my champagne glass. What should have been a celebration became a fight for survival. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're from, hit subscribe, and stay for a story about how family can be deadlier than strangers. Growing up in the Harrison household meant living in a beautiful prison. Our five-bedroom colonial, in an exclusive neighborhood, looked perfect from the outside. Manicured lawn luxury cars in the driveway, and family portraits showing four smiling faces. But inside those walls, warmth was as scarce as authenticity. My father, Charles, built his wealth through his investment firm, climbing the corporate ladder with ruthless determination. Standing 6 feet tall with salt and pepper hair always perfectly styled, he commanded respect and fear in equal measure. His philosophy was simple: appearance matters more than substance. Success justifies any means, and family exists to enhance social standing. From my earliest memories, he measured my value by how well I reflected on him. Stand straighter, Kendall. Speak clearly. Your posture reflects our family name, he'd say when I was just 6 years old, pinching my shoulder until I complied. My mother, Eleanor, complimented him perfectly. Former beauty queen turned trophy wife and social coordinator. Her blonde hair never showed roots, her figure maintained through strict diets and discreet procedures, her smile practiced to perfection. While father ruled through cold authority, mother specialized in emotional manipulation. "Darling, is that what you're wearing?" she'd ask with a concerned look. "I just worry what people might think. You want to make us proud, right?" Then there was my sister Sophia, younger by 3 years, but infinitely more valued. Pretty compliant and eager to please, she became the daughter they wanted. While I questioned and challenged, Sophia nodded and smiled. When I refused to wear the dresses mother selected, Sophia twirled in hers with delight. When I questioned father's business ethics, Sophia asked for investment advice. Our home operated with unspoken rules: conform or be punished, achieve, but never outshine the family name. Exist as an extension of parental ambition. My childhood bedroom resembled a museum exhibit. Expensive furniture, selected by mother, achievements, displayed for visitors, but nothing reflecting my actual personality. My rebellion began subtly. Reading books they disapproved of. Befriending children from unsuitable families. Small acts of defiance that grew as I did. By high school, the battle lines were clearly drawn. I joined debate club instead of debutante society. I wore practical clothes instead of designer labels. I expressed interest in psychology rather than business or law. Psychology, father scoffed during dinner when I mentioned my college plans, glorified fortune-telling. No Harrison has ever done something so impractical. Darling, people will think we can't afford to send you to a proper program, mother added, sipping her wine. The ultimate betrayal came when I declined admission to my father's alma mater, an Ivy League business program, and accepted a scholarship to the State University for psychology. "You're throwing away your future," father declared, his voice dangerously quiet, "and our investment in you." That night, I heard them arguing about me. Mother suggested cutting me off completely. Father disagreed, citing appearances. "We can't have people thinking we abandoned her. We'll minimize financial support. She'll come crawling back when she sees how the real world works." They underestimated me. I found 3 part-time jobs: waitressing, tutoring, and research assistant work. I lived in a tiny apartment with 2 roommates. I ate ramen and learned to budget. Every holiday visit home became an exercise in enduring subtle digs and comparisons to Sophia, who attended father's chosen university and studied business economics. Sophia made Dean's List again, mother would announce over Thanksgiving dinner. Her professor says she has remarkable business instincts. Just like her father, Sophia would add, smiling at Dad. The contrast between our treatment grew more pronounced. My parents funded Sophia's apartment in full, bought her a new car for her 19th birthday, and paid for spring break trips to Europe. Meanwhile, I received practical gifts, a planner, business attire, for interviews, books on financial management. Each gift carried the same message: your choices disappoint us. Through 4 years of college, I maintained a 3.9 GPA, built a network of supportive friends, and secured a spot in a prestigious graduate program for clinical psychology. I published 2 research papers as an undergraduate and received a commendation from the department chair. Yet each accomplishment was met with the same response from home: "That's nice, dear. Have you considered transferring to business school? It's not too late to make something of yourself." The family dynamics played out predictably at every gathering. Father dominated conversations, mother maintained appearances. Sophia performed filial devotion, and I existed as the family disappointment. The pattern was so established that what happened at my graduation party should have been predictable. Yet somehow, I never imagined how far they would go to maintain control. My final semester flew by in a blur of papers, exams, and job interviews. While most of my classmates enjoyed their last months of college freedom, I balanced coursework with preparation for graduate school applications and maintaining my multiple jobs. My friendship circle had narrowed to a few close confidants who understood my situation. Zoe became my strongest ally, a sociology major with an uncanny ability to read people and situations. With wild curly hair and a wardrobe exclusively featuring thrift store finds, she represented everything my parents disdained, which naturally drew me to her. "Your parents are textbook narcissists," she declared during one of our late-night study sessions. "Everything has to reflect back on them, even your accomplishments." When my acceptance letter to the doctoral program arrived, Zoe insisted on celebrating. We splurged on dinner at a restaurant normally outside our budget, toasting with cheap wine to my future. "Dr. Kendall Harrison," she said, raising her glass, "helping future generations unpack their family trauma." If I survived my own, I laughed, though the joke felt hollow. 2 weeks before graduation, my phone displayed my mother's number, Popple, an unusual occurrence since our communication typically happened through brief text messages or formal emails. "Kendall, darling, your father and I have decided to host a graduation party for you," she announced, without preamble. "We've already sent invitations to our close circle and several university contacts who might be useful for your career choice." The pause before acknowledging my field was typical, but the party announcement caught me completely off guard. "A party? You haven't even confirmed you're attending the ceremony," I replied, unable to hide my surprise. "Of course we're attending, darling. Our daughter is graduating college. What kind of parents would miss that?" Her laugh sounded rehearsed. "The party will be the Saturday after, giving people time to arrange attendance. We've hired Watson Catering and booked a string quartet." The extravagance seemed suspicious. In 4 years, they had visited campus exactly twice, once during freshman orientation, and once when they were in the area for one of Father's business meetings. "Mother, that's unnecessary. My friends and I were planning a small gathering at—" "Nonsense. This is a significant milestone. Your father insists. We'll expect you home the day after graduation to help prepare. Sophia is flying in from school as well." After hanging up, I immediately called Zoe. "They're throwing me a graduation party with catering and music." "Red flag," Zoe responded immediately. "What do they want?" "Maybe they're finally proud of me." Even saying it aloud sounded naive. "Kendall, honey, these are people who've undermined you at every turn. Sudden grandstanding celebrations are not their style unless there's an angle." I wanted to dismiss her concerns, but 3 days later, I accidentally discovered what might be their true motivation. Stopping by the university administration building to resolve a transcript issue, I encountered Professor Winter's department chair and my research advisor. "Kendall, just the person I wanted to see. I received the invitation to your graduation celebration. Your father called personally to ensure I'd attend. He was quite interested in discussing your graduate school prospects." My father, who had once called psychology a waste of tuition money, had personally invited my advisor to discuss my future in the field. The contradiction was jarring enough that I decided to call home again, catching my father before he left for work. "Dad, I spoke with Professor Winters. He mentioned you called him about the party." A brief pause. "Yes, I did. Is that a problem?" "I'm just surprised. You've never shown interest in my department before." "Things change, Kendall. Your mother and I have been discussing your future. It's time we supported your choices more actively." The hesitation spoke volumes. My father never changed his mind about anything, especially what he considered proper career paths. The mystery deepened when I called home 3 days before graduation and overheard a conversation between my parents. My mother had answered, but placed me on hold to finish something quickly. The muffled voices carried through the phone. "Not sure this approach is necessary," my mother was saying. "There are other ways to handle the Kendall problem." "We've discussed this," my father replied, his tone definitive. "The situation requires resolution before it affects Sophia's prospects. Jackson's son has already asked questions." My mother must have remembered I was on hold and returned to the call, her voice bright with artificial cheer. "Sorry, darling. Your father and I were just discussing the seating arrangements. Now about your dress for the party." The Kendall problem echoed in my mind. I assumed they were referring to my financial independence and career choice, ongoing points of contention. Perhaps they worried I might embarrass them by discussing my multiple jobs or modest apartment with their wealthy friends. 2 days before graduation, I drove home with a suitcase containing my carefully selected outfit, a navy blue dress purchased on sale months earlier and saved for this occasion. Zoe's warning followed me. "Watch your back. People who've tried to control you your whole life don't suddenly change their tune." I arrived to find our home transformed into a showcase. Fresh flowers adorned every surface, new artwork hung in the foyer, and staff bustled about preparing guest rooms for out-of-town visitors. My mother greeted me with an air kiss near my cheek. "Kendall, darling, you look tired. We've prepared your old room. Sophia arrives tomorrow morning. Your dress is hanging in your closet." "I brought my own dress, Mother." Her smile tightened. I took the liberty of selecting something more appropriate. The guests include several important connections. In my childhood bedroom, I found a pink dress with a designer label still attached. The style screamed mother's taste. Feminine, traditional, and completely unlike anything I would choose. Next to it hung a matching outfit for Sophia in blue. The color my mother always insisted brought out her eyes. Before I could process this, my phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "How's the Lion's Den mauled yet?" "Dress drama already," I replied. "And something weird about a Kendall problem they're solving." "Trust your instincts," she texted back. Document everything. That evening, my parents hosted a small dinner for early arriving guests, including my father's business partner, Lawrence, and his wife, Patricia. Throughout the meal, my parents showcased Sophia's achievements while minimizing mine. Sophia's professor believes she could have a future on Wall Street, my father announced proudly. And Kendall Lawrence asked, turning to me, "Psychology, right? Fascinating field." Before I could answer, my mother interjected, "A phase we think. Kendall has always been drawn to helping professions, but we're discussing more practical applications." Actually, I corrected firmly. I've been accepted to the doctoral program with a research focus on family systems therapy. An uncomfortable silence followed, broken by Patricia's genuine interest. "That sounds incredibly valuable work." My niece benefited greatly from family therapy after her parents' divorce. The conversation shifted, but not before I caught my father's expression, a flash, of something beyond disapproval, something closer to fear. Later that night, passing my father's study, I overheard him on the phone. "Everything is arranged for Saturday. The Kendall situation will be resolved discreetly. No, Sophia remains unaware. Better that way." I retreated to my room, unease growing. What exactly was the Kendall situation that required resolving, and why did it need to be kept from Sophia? Graduation morning arrived with perfect May weather sunshine, warming the campus, light breeze carrying the scent of fresh-cut grass and new possibilities. I joined the sea of black gowns and caps, feeling a complex mixture of pride and loneliness. Unlike most graduates, surrounded by excited parents taking photos, I stood alone, receiving occasional texts from my mother about party preparations. Florist delivered wrong centerpieces, handling crisis, may be late, to ceremony. They never arrived. The seats I'd reserved remained empty as names were called, degrees conferred, and futures launched. When Kendall Harrison echoed through the speakers, a small but enthusiastic cheer rose from the section where Zoe and my other friends sat. I crossed the stage, accepted my diploma, and moved my tassel with no family witnesses. "They seriously didn't show," Zoe asked afterward, hugging me tightly. "Apparently there was a centerpiece emergency," I replied, attempting humor to mask the hurt. "Their loss. You looked amazing up there." She snapped several photos of me in my cap and gown. "For when you're a famous psychologist and need graduation photos for your book jacket." I arrived home to find the party already underway, though it was supposedly in my honor. Luxury cars lined our circular driveway. Staff, circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres, and a string quartet played in the corner of our expansive backyard. My mother intercepted me at the door, her smile strained. "Kendall, darling, you're finally here. Quickly go change into your dress. People have been asking for you." "I was at my graduation, Mother. The one you missed." Her expression flickered briefly. "There was an issue with the flowers. Your father handled it. Now please go change and do something with your hair." Upstairs, I found Sophia in my bathroom, applying makeup in the designer blue dress that matched the pink one laid out for me. "There's the graduate," she exclaimed with practiced enthusiasm. "Mother's been frantic about you being late." I wasn't late. The ceremony ran the exact length it was scheduled to. Sophia shrugged, perfecting her lipstick. "You know how she gets about timing. By the way, Tyler's here." The casual mention of my ex-boyfriend sent a jolt through me. Tyler? Why would he be invited? "Daddy invited the whole Jackson family. Business connections, you know." Tyler asked about you. Her smile held a hint of satisfaction. "He looks really good in his new suit." Tyler and I had dated briefly during my sophomore year, ending things when I discovered he was more interested in my family connections than me personally. His father was a potential investor in my father's firm, and Tyler had been quite transparent about how dating a Harrison could benefit his future. "You two would make such a striking couple," Sophia continued, her tone innocent but her eyes calculating. "Maybe you should reconsider. A business manager husband would balance out your unconventional career choice." I changed quickly, ignoring the pink dress in favor of my navy blue one. My mother would be displeased, but small rebellions kept me sane. When I descended the stairs, Father immediately approached, champagne flute in hand. "There's our graduate," he announced loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "Harvard's loss is State University's Gainwright Princess." The nickname he hadn't used since I was 12 signaled his performance for the audience. I played along, accepting his half-hug for the benefit of watching eyes. "Congratulations, Kendall," came a familiar voice. Dr. Lewis, our family physician, since my childhood, approached with genuine warmth. In his 70s now, he had always treated me with unusual kindness during family visits. "Dr. Lewis, thank you for coming. Wouldn't miss it. Your academic achievements are impressive. Psychology correct. Fascinating field." My father's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Kendall was just telling us she's reconsidering her options. Perhaps business school after all." Actually, I began, but was interrupted by my mother, appearing with Tyler Jackson in tow. "Kendall, look who's asking about you. Tyler, you remember my daughter." Tyler stood before me, 6 feet of practiced charm in an expensive suit. His handshake lingered too long, his smile calculated. The graduate herself. "Congratulations." My father excused himself with Dr. Lewis, leaving me trapped in conversation with Tyler and my mother. While Tyler detailed his internship at his father's firm, I noticed my sister watching us from across the room, her expression unreadable. "Kendall is considering business school," my mother interjected, when Tyler paused for breath. "I'm not, actually. I've been accepted to the doctoral program for clinical psychology." Tyler's interest visibly dimmed. "Psychology. Isn't that a difficult field to monetize?" "Not everyone measures success in dollar signs," I replied, earning a sharp look from my mother. "Kendall has always had unique perspectives," she said tightly. "If you'll excuse us, Tyler, I need to borrow my daughter for introductions." As she steered me away, her fingers dug into my arm. "Must you contradict everything? The Jacksons could be valuable connections. For you and Dad, maybe. Not for me." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Your father has gone to considerable expense for this party. The least you could do is show appreciation." Throughout the next hour, I was paraded before my parents' associates like a show pony, my achievements selectively edited to sound more impressive to business-minded guests. My actual accomplishments, research publications, academic awards, community service, and, to et, went unmentioned. Midway through an introduction to a potential donor to my father's alumni foundation, Dr. Lewis appeared at my side. "Pardon the interruption. May I steal Kendall for a moment?" Medical question about her grandmother. Once we were away from the crowd, his expression turned serious. "Kendall, be careful tonight." "What do you mean?" He glanced around before continuing. "I've known your family a long time. There's tension I haven't seen before. Your father asked unusual questions at his last appointment about digestive conditions and treatments." Before he could elaborate, my father's voice boomed across the patio. "Everyone gather round. Time for a special toast to our graduate." Dr. Lewis squeezed my arm. "Just watch yourself. Some family dynamics don't improve with celebration." As guests assembled, I noticed my father directing a server with unusual specificity about the champagne distribution. He pointed to a particular tray where one glass with a distinctive gold rim stood apart from the others. That one goes to Kendall. Only Kendall, I overheard him instructing. My sister sidled up beside me, Tyler close behind her. Daddy's making a big deal of this toast. He had the caterer bring special champagne just for you. Something in her tone made me glance sharply at her. How thoughtful. It's imported. Very exclusive, she continued. He went to the cellar personally to select it. As my father approached with the server carrying the special tray, I noticed his eyes tracking the gold-rimmed glass with unusual intensity. My mother watched from several feet away, her smile fixed, but her knuckles white around her own champagne flute. Everyone, my father called out a special toast to my daughter on her graduation day. 20 minutes before my father's toast announcement, I had excused myself to the powder room, needing a moment away from the performance. Taking the long route through the kitchen, I overheard my parents' voices from the pantry, their tone urgent and hushed. "Is this really necessary?" My mother sounded tense. "There must be other options." "We've discussed this, Eleanor." My father's voice was firm. "The trust becomes accessible at 25 unless we establish incompetence. She's already talking about using her portion for some community psychology clinic nonsense. But this approach, do you want her exposing everything to the Jacksons? To our social circle? She's always been rebellious, but now she's dangerous. The foundation cannot withstand scrutiny. And Sophia understands the importance of family loyalty. Kendall's just a leech, has been her whole life. Taking and taking, while giving nothing back to the family name." Their footsteps moved toward the door, forcing me to retreat quickly into an alcove. My heart pounded as I processed what I'd heard. The Kendall problem was financial, my upcoming access to what must be a family trust, a trust I'd never been told about. Instead of continuing to the bathroom, I circled back through the dining room, positioning myself where I could observe my father without being noticed. Through the French doors, I watched him enter his study and unlock the bottom drawer of his desk, a drawer I'd been forbidden to open throughout childhood. From my position, I could see him remove a small vial containing white powder which he slipped into his jacket pocket before rejoining the party. His expression was neutral, but his movements were precise, deliberate. The sight triggered a long-buried memory. My 10th birthday, when I'd received a puppy, despite my mother's objections. I'd named him Max and adored him immediately. 2 weeks later, after I'd defied my father about a school event, Max became violently ill. The veterinarian had been baffled by the sudden organ failure in an otherwise healthy puppy. "Sometimes these things happen," my father had said, his tone final. "Let this be a lesson about the fragility of life, Kendall." The connection between past and present crystallized with horrifying clarity. Was my father planning to poison me? The thought seemed absurd, melodramatic, yet the evidence mounted, the secretive conversation, the mysterious vial. The special champagne glass he'd instructed be given only to me. My hands trembled as I texted Zoe. "Something very wrong. Dad has powder vial talking about me being a problem to solve." Her response was, "Immediate. Get out now. Call police." But leaving would solve nothing. If my suspicions were correct, they would simply try again later, perhaps more carefully. I needed evidence, needed to understand exactly what they planned. I slipped back into the party, maintaining a casual demeanor while keeping my father in peripheral vision. He circulated among guests, perfectly playing the role of proud parent, but his eyes tracked my movements constantly. When the catering staff brought out fresh champagne trays, I watched my father intercept one server near the kitchen door. Though I couldn't hear the exchange, I saw him indicate a specific glass with a gold rim, then surreptitiously empty something into it when the server looked away. The white powder dissolved instantly, leaving no trace in the sparkling liquid. My mind raced through options. Confrontation would lead to denial. Refusing the drink would only delay whatever they planned. Switching glasses might endanger another guest. I needed to expose them in a way that left no doubt about their intentions. An idea formed, risky, potentially dangerous, but decisive. I moved toward Sophia, who stood chatting with Tyler near the string quartet. Enjoying the party, I asked, forcing nonchalance into my voice. "It's lovely," Sophia replied. "Though Mother's been stressed all day. Something about the timing of everything. The timing of my graduation. No, something else. I overheard her telling Daddy that if this doesn't work, they'll try the alternate plan next week instead." Before I could press further, my father's voice called everyone to gather for the toast. Sophia looped her arm through mine, leading me to the center of the patio where our parents waited. The server approached with the special tray, my father's eyes fixed on the gold-rimmed glass. "Here she is, our graduate," my father's voice carried across the assembled guests. "Kendall, this special vintage is just for you." He personally lifted the gold-rimmed glass from the tray, holding it out to me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. My mother stood beside him, her expression a mask of pride, overlaying visible tension. As I reached for the glass, time seemed to slow. I noticed Dr. Lewis watching intently from the edge of the crowd, his brow furrowed. Saw Sophia's curious expression as she observed the special glass. Caught the almost imperceptible nod between my parents as the glass passed from my father's hand to mine. My decision crystallized in that moment. I accepted the glass, feeling its weight. The weight of years of conditional love, of manipulation, of subtle and not so subtle punishment for failing to be the daughter they wanted. "Thank you, Dad," I said, my voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Before we drink, I'd like to say something." The champagne glass felt cold against my fingers as I turned to face the gathered guests. My father's expression flickered with impatience, not the reaction of someone excited to hear a daughter's grateful speech, but someone watching a clock tick down. "I want to thank everyone for coming today." I began, my voice stronger than I felt. Graduation represents not just academic achievement, but personal growth. Looking back on my journey, I realize how much I've learned about psychology, about human behavior, about family dynamics. My mother's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. My father shifted his weight, glancing at his watch. In particular, I've come to value authenticity and honesty above all else. I raised the gold-rimmed glass slightly. And speaking of values, I'd like to recognize someone who's been a constant in my life, whose support has meant everything. My father's posture relaxed, slightly anticipating acknowledgement. "My sister Sophia." Confusion crossed her face as all eyes turned to her. "Despite our differences, despite being pitted against each other our whole lives, you've remained my sister. Today, I want to honor that bond." I stepped toward her, extending the gold-rimmed glass. "This special champagne, Dad, selected just for me. I want you to have it. A symbol of my hope for our future relationship." Panic flashed across my father's face. "That's not necessary, Kendall. It was chosen specifically for me." I know, I interrupted smoothly. "Which makes it mine to share as I choose." My mother stepped forward. "Sophia already has champagne, darling. This one is yours to celebrate your accomplishment." But Sophia, seeing an opportunity to be the center of attention, had already set down her previous glass and reached for the gold-rimmed one. "I'd be honored to share your special champagne." "Sophia, no." My father's voice held an edge of desperation I'd never heard before. "Too late." Sophia, interpreting his objection as mere formality, smiled brightly and took a deliberate sip from the gold-rimmed glass. It's delicious. What vintage is this, Daddy? The color drained from my father's face. My mother swayed, slightly steadying herself against a nearby table. The reaction confirmed my worst suspicions. The champagne contained something harmful. Sophia, put that down. My father commanded, his voice sharp. Why? She asked, taking another sip, defiantly confused by the sudden attention. You said it was special champagne for Kendall's. She stopped mid-sentence, her expression changing. That's strange. It tastes bitter underneath. Within seconds, Sophia's face flushed. She blinked rapidly, pressing her hand to her forehead. I feel dizzy. What's happening? Someone call an ambulance, I shouted, rushing to support Sophia as her knees buckled. Lowering her to a chair, I turned to my father. What did you put in that drink? Guests murmured in confusion. My father moved quickly, attempting damage control. She must be having an allergic reaction. Sophia has always been sensitive to alcohol. Sophia's had champagne at every family event since she was 18. I countered loudly. This isn't an allergic reaction. Dr. Lewis pushed through the crowd, medical instincts overriding social niceties. Let me through. I'm a physician. He knelt beside Sophia, who was now breathing rapidly, her pupils dilated. What are her symptoms? He asked me, checking her pulse. Dizziness, confusion, rapid onset after drinking from that specific glass, I replied, pointing to the gold-rimmed champagne flute now sitting on the table. Dr. Lewis looked up sharply at my father. Charles, what was in that drink? Nothing, just champagne. This is ridiculous, my father blustered, but his eyes betrayed panic. Sophia groaned, clutching her stomach. I'm going to be sick. Dr. Lewis's expression hardened. This looks like poisoning. Someone call 911 immediately. A guest already had phone in hand, reporting the emergency. The party dissolved into chaos, some guests backing away, others crowding forward to see the drama unfold. Through it all, my parents stood frozen, their carefully constructed facade crumbling. Check the glass, I instructed Dr. Lewis. And someone make sure my father doesn't leave. I saw him put something in that champagne earlier. It was meant for me. Preposterous, my father exploded, but his protest lacked conviction. My daughter is having some kind of episode. She's always been unstable, emotional. My mother found her voice. Kendall has been under tremendous pressure with school. She's imagining things. Am I imagining the vial in your jacket pocket, Dad? I challenged, stepping toward him. The one you took from your desk drawer right before you doctored my champagne. His hand instinctively moved to protect his pocket, confirming my accusation. Several guests gasped. Sophia retched violently, drawing Dr. Lewis's attention back to her. We need to get her to a hospital immediately. Whatever she ingested is causing a severe reaction. As if on cue, sirens wailed in the distance. My father made a subtle move toward the house, but I blocked his path. Running away, Dad. What happened to family loyalty? His expression darkened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? You called me a leech earlier today, said I was dangerous to the family. Was poisoning me really your solution to the Kendall problem? Whispers rippled through the remaining guests. My mother stepped between us, her voice lowered to a harsh whisper. Stop this immediately. You're causing a scene. I'm causing a scene? You just tried to poison your own daughter. The paramedics arrived, pushing through the stunned crowd with a stretcher. Dr. Lewis briefed them quickly, handing them the gold-rimmed glass. Suspected poisoning. Preserve this for testing. As they loaded Sophia onto the stretcher, her gaze found mine, confusion and betrayal in her eyes. Kendall, what's happening? You're going to be okay, I promised, squeezing her hand. I'll be right behind you. My father attempted to follow the paramedics, but two male guests, Lawrence among them, stepped forward to block his path. "Charles, you need to stay and explain what's happening," Lawrence said firmly. "The police will want to speak with you." "This is a family matter," my father insisted, desperation edging his voice. "Attempted murder isn't a family matter," I countered loudly. "It's a criminal one." Police officers arrived minutes after the ambulance departed, responding to the 911 call. The remaining guests had separated into small clusters, shock and speculation passing between them like currency. One officer approached me. "I understand you witnessed suspicious activity involving the victim's drink." "Yes, and I have more evidence." I pulled out my phone, opening the voice recorder app I'd activated before the toast. I recorded our interaction during the toast, and earlier I overheard my parents discussing their plans. My mother's perfectly maintained composure finally cracked. "You recorded us. Without consent. That's illegal." So is attempted murder, mother. As the police began interviewing witnesses, securing the scene, and collecting evidence, the carefully constructed image of the Harrison family shattered completely. My father was escorted to the police station for questioning my mother, following in a separate vehicle. The graduation party, meant to be a celebration of achievement, or more accurately the scene of my incapacitation, ended with crime scene tape across our manicured lawn. I rode to the hospital in Dr. Lewis's car, leaving behind the whispers and shocked faces of my parents' social circle. As we drove, he finally spoke the thoughts he'd been holding back. "I've suspected something wasn't right in your family for years," he admitted. "Your father's questions about untraceable substances. Your mother's excessive anxiety medication patterns of control, I observed. But I never imagined it would escalate to this." "Neither did I replied, watching the familiar streets of my childhood pass by. "But maybe I should have." The hospital waiting room became my home for the next 24 hours. Nurses moved efficiently around me. Doctors consulted in hushed tones, and police officers rotated through to take additional statements. Zoe arrived within hours of my text, bringing clothes, coffee, and unwavering support. "I knew your parents were toxic, but this is beyond anything I imagined," she said, sitting beside me as we waited for updates on Sophia's condition. The toxicology report confirmed what Dr. Lewis had suspected. The champagne contained a combination of sedatives and chemicals that would have caused severe disorientation, memory loss, and potentially respiratory depression if consumed in full. Sophia, having taken only 2 sips, was experiencing a milder version of what could have been fatal effects. The working theory, Detective Rivera explained during one of our interviews, is that they plan to incapacitate you, create a scenario suggesting psychological instability, and use that to maintain control of your finances. "The trust fund," I murmured, remembering my father's words about establishing incompetence. "I never even knew it existed." "According to financial records we've subpoenaed, you're set to gain control of a substantial inheritance at 25, nearly $2 million from your maternal grandmother's estate held in trust." The revelation struck me like physical blow. My grandmother died when I was 8. They've hidden this from me for 14 years. Detective Rivera nodded grimly. "The terms specified that both you and your sister would receive equal shares upon turning 25, provided you were of sound mind and judgment, a clause your father appears to have been planning to exploit." While authorities built their case, Sophia regained consciousness, confused and betrayed. When allowed to visit her, I found her pale against the hospital pillows, the designer blue dress replaced by a hospital gown. "They told me what happened," she said, her voice small. "That Daddy put something in your champagne. That it was meant to hurt you." "I'm so sorry you got caught in the middle," I replied, taking her hand. Tears filled her eyes. I don't understand. Why would they do that to you? Money, control, protecting their secrets. I hesitated, then continued. Did you know about the trust fund from Grandmother Williams? Confusion crossed her face. What trust fund? The shared shock of discovery created an unexpected bond between us. As Sophia recovered, we pieced together the puzzle of our family's deception. She had been kept as ignorant as I was, though favored and protected as the compliant daughter. They always told me you were difficult, unstable, Sophia admitted during one of our long hospital conversations. That your choice to study psychology was because you had issues you were trying to work through. And you believed them. They're our parents, I never questioned. Her voice trailed off. I should have seen through it. The way they talked about you when you weren't around it wasn't right. While Sophia recuperated, the investigation expanded beyond the poisoning attempt. Financial records revealed irregularities in my father's business, suggesting misappropriation of client funds. His computer contained evidence of tax evasion, fraudulent investments, and manipulation of the very foundation he'd used to enhance his social standing. My mother, initially claiming ignorance, eventually admitted knowledge of both the financial crimes and the plot against me. Her attorney negotiated a plea deal in exchange for testimony against my father, whose charges now included attempted murder conspiracy, financial fraud, and tax evasion. The scandal exploded across local media, destroying the carefully maintained Harrison family image. Former friends and business associates distanced themselves overnight. The investment firm collapsed as clients withdrew their funds. The house was seized as part of the investigation into financial crimes. Through it all, Sophia and I formed an alliance neither of us had thought possible. When she was released from the hospital, she faced a difficult decision of return to university, where whispers and stares would follow her, or find a new path. I don't even know if I want to continue with business, she confessed. I only chose it because Dad expected it. I've always been interested in art history, but they said it wasn't practical. You don't have to decide everything right now, I told her. You've been through a trauma. We both have, she corrected, our entire lives. As weeks passed and the legal proceedings continued, I found myself juggling graduate school preparations with court appearances and therapy sessions. Dr. Lewis connected me with a trauma specialist who helped me process not just the recent events, but the lifetime of manipulation preceding them. What you're describing is a pattern of narcissistic abuse, Dr. Chen explained during one session. The constant undermining conditional love triangulation between you and your sister, these are classic tactics. I always knew something was wrong, but I never imagined they'd try to physically harm me. When narcissists lose control, they can become dangerous. Your independence threatened their narrative. The preliminary hearing for my father became a media spectacle. Dressed in prison orange instead of designer suits, he sat emotionless as evidence mounted against him. My mother, separated from him by both circumstance and legal strategy, appeared physically diminished her, carefully maintained appearance deteriorating without her usual resources. When called to testify, I faced them directly for the first time since the party. My father refused to meet my eyes, while my mother's gaze held a complex mixture of regret and resentment. Miss Harrison, the prosecutor asked, when did you first suspect your parents intended to harm you? I had concerns when I overheard them discussing the Kendall problem that needed resolving, I replied. But the moment I knew for certain was when I saw my father adding an unknown substance to the champagne glass designated specifically for me. And why did you give that glass to your sister? I needed indisputable evidence of their intentions. I knew creating a public situation would force the truth into the open. I paused. I never imagined Sophia would drink from it before I could stop her. I expected my father to intervene the moment I tried to hand it over. The judge's expression remained neutral, but the jury's horrified faces told me they understood the desperate calculation I'd made. Outside the courtroom, reporters clamored for statements, their questions, reflecting the public's morbid fascination with our family tragedy. I declined interviews, focusing instead on rebuilding some semblance of normalcy with Sophia. We found a modest two-bedroom apartment near my graduate program, pooling our limited resources while the trust fund remained tied up in legal proceedings. Sophia took a leave of absence from university, using the time to explore art history courses at the local community college and working part-time at a gallery. "Do you think we'll ever understand why they did it?" she asked one evening as we shared takeout dinner in our sparsely furnished living room. "Not the money part, but the rest of it. The way they pitted us against each other. The constant criticism. The control." "I don't know," I admitted. "Some family dynamics are too toxic to ever fully understand. But we can break the cycle." "Sometimes I miss them," she confessed quietly. "Is that horrible? After everything they did?" "It's normal. We can miss what we hoped they could be, even while acknowledging who they actually were." 6 months after the graduation party that changed everything, my father was convicted on multiple charges and sentenced to 20 years in prison. My mother received a reduced sentence of 5 years for her cooperation. The family home was sold to compensate victims of my father's financial schemes. The prestigious Harrison name became synonymous with scandal rather than success. Yet from the wreckage emerged something unexpected: an authentic relationship between sisters who had been manipulated into rivalry, and the beginning of a healing journey neither of us had imagined possible. Autumn leaves crunched beneath my boots as I walked across campus to my advanced psychopathology seminar. 6 months into my graduate program, I'd established a routine that balanced academic demands with ongoing healing. The whispers that had followed me during the first weeks, "That's her, the one whose parents tried to poison her," had mostly subsided, replaced by recognition for my research and classroom contributions. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia Gallery, "Sold my first painting, celebrating tonight." Pride swelled as I replied, with enthusiastic agreement. In the months since moving in together, Sophia had discovered genuine talent as an artist, her work evolving from technically proficient to emotionally powerful. Her latest series, titled Family Systems, explored themes of identity and false narratives through abstract imagery. Our apartment had transformed from a sparse refuge to a true home. Sophia's artwork brightened the walls. My psychology books filled the shelves, and photographs documented our new memories rather than manufactured family moments. We'd established traditions entirely our own: Sunday morning coffee at the local cafe, monthly movie marathons, honest conversations, without fear of manipulation. The therapy sessions continued for both of us, sometimes together, sometimes separate. Dr. Chen had become a trusted guide through the complex landscape of family trauma. "Recovery isn't linear," she reminded us during a joint session. "There will be days when anger overwhelms you, days when grief feels unbearable, and days when you question your own memories." Those words proved prophetic when the first letter arrived from our mother 3 months into her incarceration. Her elegant handwriting, once used for social correspondence and party invitations, now filled prison stationery with apologies and explanations. "I never wanted to harm you," she wrote. "I was trapped in your father's world, afraid to contradict him. Please understand I had no choice." Sophia wanted to respond immediately. I needed time to process the implicit denial of responsibility, the continuation of victim narratives even from behind bars. "She's still not taking ownership," I pointed out. during a difficult conversation with my sister. Notice how everything is framed as your father, forcing her never her own choices. But what if he did control her completely? What if she was as much a victim as we were? The question haunted our healing journey. Where did manipulation end and personal responsibility begin? How much could fear explain, and how much could it excuse? We decided to respond with a joint letter, compassionate but firm, establishing boundaries around our communication. We would listen to her perspective but not accept deflection or denial. We would acknowledge her suffering without diminishing our own. My father never wrote. According to his attorney, he maintained that the entire situation resulted from my psychological instability and vindictive nature. Even faced with irrefutable evidence and legal consequences, he clung to the narrative that had defined our family dynamic, his infallibility versus others' deficiencies. The trust fund was eventually released from legal hold, providing both Sophia and me with financial security. We approached with caution and consciousness. Having witnessed wealth used as control, we established clear boundaries around money in our relationship. I want to use part of mine to establish a scholarship, Sophia announced one evening, for students pursuing art despite family pressure to choose more practical paths. That's beautiful, I told her, genuinely moved by her transformation from the materialistic girl she'd been raised to be. My own plans crystallized around using my portion to establish a foundation supporting family therapy for victims of narcissistic abuse. What began as a personal healing mechanism evolved into professional purpose, shaping my research focus and career aspirations. Zoe remained a constant support, joining our chosen family along with other friends who demonstrated authentic care. Together, we celebrated milestones that might seem small to outsiders, but represented significant healing for us. The first holiday season, without manufactured family perfection, the first time Sophia stood up to a controlling professor, my first published paper on psychological manipulation within family systems. Not all relationships survived the transformation. Tyler, who had briefly dated Sophia after the scandal, disappeared when media attention waned, and the Harrison name no longer carried social currency. Some former family friends maintained uncomfortable distance, uncertain how to relate to us without our parents as intermediaries. Dr. Lewis, however, became a grandfatherly figure, checking in regularly and offering wisdom from his decades of observing human behavior. The greatest tragedy, he told us during a dinner at our apartment, is how much potential for genuine connection was sacrificed for appearance and control. 1 year after the graduation party, we stood together in the cemetery where our maternal grandmother was buried. The woman whose trust fund had inadvertently triggered our parents' desperate action remained largely unknown to us, her memory curated through our parents' selective storytelling. "Do you think she would be proud of us?" Sophia asked, placing flowers on the grave. "From the little we've learned about her, I think she valued authenticity," I replied. "She built her own business when women weren't expected to work, chose her own path despite social pressure. That's why she established independent trusts for us, instead of leaving everything to our parents." "We're more like her than them," Sophia realized, a small smile forming. The insight felt like a gift, the discovery of healthier branches in our family tree roots that extended beyond the toxic soil of our immediate upbringing. As winter turned to spring and spring to summer, our healing journey continued with inevitable setbacks and surprising breakthroughs. The nightmares decreased in frequency, the hypervigilance around food and drink gradually subsided, and we learned to trust our own perceptions after years of gaslighting. The opposite of toxic family systems isn't perfect family systems, I explained to my therapy group during my clinical internship. It's authentic family systems where members can be human, flawed, evolving, sometimes struggling, but fundamentally respectful of each other's autonomy and dignity. The words applied as much to the family Sophia and I were creating as to my clients' situations. We disagreed, sometimes misunderstood each other occasionally, but approached conflict with honesty rather than manipulation, repair rather than control. On the anniversary of the graduation party, we decided against somber remembrance, instead hosting a rebirthday gathering with our chosen family. Zoe brought her famous homemade bread. Dr. Lewis arrived with vintage wine, which we jokingly had him taste first, and Sophia's art community mingled with my psychology colleagues. Standing in our living room, surrounded by people who valued us for ourselves, rather than as extensions of their own identities, I felt a sense of peace that once seemed impossible. "A toast," I said, raising my glass. "Not to surviving our past, but to creating our future." As glasses clinked and genuine smiles reflected back at me, I recognized the most profound lesson of our journey. Family isn't defined by DNA, but by choice. The choice to see others clearly, love them authentically, and support their growth without condition or control. The scars remained and always would, visible in our heightened sensitivity to manipulation, our occasional struggle to accept genuine praise, our careful approach to new relationships. But scars also represented healing tissue, stronger than before, at the very place it had been wounded. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from family experiences? Whether challenging or supportive, has someone's betrayal ever taught you something important about yourself or others? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more real-life journeys, and share with someone who might need to hear that family trauma doesn't have to define your future. Thank you for being part of this healing journey with me.